Really much tervepä terve again. Today I'm going to show you how you can use jQuery to customize Dynamics 365 portals. I have a couple of scenarios which I'm going to show and demonstrate the jQuery possibilities, how that can be inserted into D365 portal pages, and how that can be debugged using browser developer tools. So if we start by going through the scenario that I have here for demonstration, this is the portal which I'm using, a demo portal, and I'm already logged in as an admin, so I have the admin controls available over here. I have work order entity integrated to the portal here. If you don't know what work order is, it's an entity in Dynamics 365 that comes with the field service module or field service application that is installed to Dynamics 365. And work order is basically an entity where work is saved or stored that an engineer or field service engineer, for example, does on a field when he goes on site. So here I have one sample work order as a list view in Portal, and if I open the form itself, you can see that this is an edit work order form in the Portal, and there are a few fields that I've added to the form here, and below that there are work order products or work order services as a grid view on the bottom of the portal. So what I'm going to do here today is that when a user selects a customer asset for a work order, then the service account and billing account should be populated from the customer asset and not directly set by user here in the form. So customer asset is another entity in field service application, and that is kind of like a device that is installed on a field that then the field service goes on site and services, for example. And in the customer asset entity, there is a customer relationship or account relationship directly there. And the scenario here is that when user selects the customer asset, then the service account and billing account of the work order would be populated automatically from the customer asset itself and not manually, as I mentioned before. There is no basically direct way to use jQuery or JavaScript here to populate the service account and billing account from the customer asset, because the customer asset account is in another or within another relationship from the work order point of view. So basically there is two hops from work order to the account that I want to populate here. The first hop is from work order to customer asset, and the second hop is from customer asset to the account of the customer asset. Sounds a bit complicated, but it's very common scenario when you work with this kind of forms and you want to populate some entity value from another entity that has no direct relationship from the initial entity itself. So the solution actually here is to use quick view forms. So if you're not familiar with the concept of quick view forms, that is one type of a form in Dynamics 365 which can present data of a related entity in a form. And I've actually added already a quick view form here within the edit work order form. So if we look at now the actual work order form, how it's laid out for the portal, I have work order entity here and the forms and there is a custom portal work order form here. And when I open that one, you can see that the same fields that were shown in the portal side are available here. So there is the basic information fields, the product grid, and the services grid. And within the middle section here, I have customer asset account quick view form. And that basically, if I open the properties of that, is a quick view form for the customer asset entity, and the lookup field that is used to populate its value is the customer asset field of the work order. And the name of the quick view form is customer asset account. If I click edit here, I can see the properties of the account quick view form itself. And as you can see here, the only field in the quick view form is the customer asset account, which is a lookup field for the account entity. So if I show you now first how it works before we insert any jQuery on the portal form, I go here and select a customer asset from the lookup. So I have a few test customer assets inserted here in my demo environment. For example, as you can see here, there is a device here which has the account of Coho Winery. This account is the account of the customer asset. And if I click the select here, the quick view form loads the account, the customer asset account, when the asset was selected. But as you can see, the service account and billing account were not populated yet because I don't have the script there, the jQuery script, to do the magic. Okay, so now you know the scenario, what I'm trying to do here. Next, I'll actually want to show you how the quick view form is rendered in the browser when it's here in the portal side. So for that, I will use the browser developer tools, and once it loads, I go to the pointer tool and select the quick view form over here. So then we can see the actual source code of on the client side. I'll select that one more time because the focus got lost. So here, and here we can see that there's a label here and the ID of the control. So if I scroll up a bit, we can see that what is the actual underlying structure there. And here is a form. Let's go up a bit more. Body is here, and here you can see it's an iframe of a class quick form, and its name or ID is customer asset account, which I showed you earlier. That is the name of the quick view form on the CRM side that I used on the form itself. So basically it's an iframe that gets loaded here inside the portal form. And that brings a bit of challenges, that how I can actually fetch the values of this quick view form here and use those to populate these two lookup fields over here. So let's select this one more time here. And here we can see that the actual input control has a value Coho Winery, as we can see here, and its ID is shown here. It's msdin _ account _ name, but as it is a lookup field, it has three other properties that are meaningful here. The first one is the GUID of the account, which is msdin _ account, and its value is a GUID that we will be using later on. And then the third property of this control is msdin _ account _ entity name, and that's familiar for everybody who has been using JavaScript on the CRM side. You need to provide the entity name, and here of course it's an account because that's the account of the customer asset that we are looking at. So now you know how the quick view form is rendered here for the portal, and now we are actually ready to check the JQuery code that I'll be using here in this exercise today. So I won't go into the details of jQuery syntax. It's very straightforward. If you're not familiar with it, there are great articles in the web about the jQuery syntax and how it's used. Here I'll be focusing at how it's actually used in D365 portal customizations and how it looks like in this our sample scenario. So first, in the beginning of the function, I have a few variables which I'm using later on, and next the meaningful thing is the change event handler here, which is triggered of the customer asset field value change. And what happens inside this function is that I will show the customer asset quick view form, which is hidden later on. It's not visible by default. So first thing that happens here when the customer asset value is changed is that the quick view form is shown. The next thing is that, as you saw earlier, when I select a value from the customer asset lookup, the quick view form gets loaded automatically. That's handled actually within the portal native code. I don't have to do any custom jQuery for that. So I just catch the load event of the quick view form, and then I store the contents of the two variables that I will be needing later on from the quick view form. So here is the kind of important syntax. Customer asset account is the quick view form. Then I find the element or the control ID with the name. This is the name of the account, and then I select the actual value and store it to the service account name variable. Similarly than that, I select the GUID of the account. This is the ID that I showed you earlier in the browser developer tools, and store it to another local variable which now has the GUID stored. The next thing I'm going to do is that I use those two variables to set the service account lookup value. So I set the attribute of the service account name to be the same as we used here in the, which we retrieved here from the quick view form. And similarly, the account GUID gets stored to another variable of the lookup field. And then the service account has also the third attribute, which is the name of the schema name of the entity, and that's hard coded here to be an account. And finally here in this row I hide the quick view form so that it's not visible there. This is not, of course, something that you have to do, but perhaps in your scenario you don't want to show the quick view form there after this script is completed. So you can just use the hide method here to hide the quick view form. Next thing that happens over here is that I'll add a custom event handler for the billing account lookup. So right after the service account lookup is populated, I'll trigger a custom event handler for the billing account, and that's this one over here. So I have the name of the event handler is change, or its type is change, and I pass one variable into that, or parameter rather. So that's something which I check over here before I proceed. So this gets executed next, and here I use the same kind of syntax for populating the billing account lookup field with the same account that I used or retrieved from the quick view form. Now, why I wanted to do it this way rather than populating the billing account lookup field directly here is that I wanted to demonstrate how you can actually add custom event handlers in JQuery code. And another thing is that if there is a scenario or event in the portal where you will actually change the value of the service account without actually changing the customer asset, then this gets triggered the service account change method and or function, and then you can see that the same can be happening here as well. So you don't have to do it this way. This was just for demonstration purposes. Okay, so now we have gone through this little piece of jQuery code, and next I'll show you how to insert this piece of code into the portal form. In D365 there's a section for portals, and all the forms that are shown in the portal are actually entity forms, and here is the list of a few entity forms that I have. And of course now we are customizing the edit work order form. So I open that here, and it takes a bit of a time to load. As you can see, it loads a few dynamic parameters over here. Actually, one thing which I've noticed is that this takes quite a lot of memory and CPU power when you do this customization. So like we can see here, the IE process takes now a little bit more than 1 gig of memory when you do these portal customizations. So for some reason it's quite a heavy process. So that's why my CPU cooler is actually making that noise, if it's if you can listen to that, or if you can hear that within the this recording. But anyways, where to store or save the jQuery code? There's a section towards the bottom of the entity form here called custom JavaScript, and that's the place where I will actually insert this code here. I'll just copy and paste it over here, and then saving the changes. And now we have the piece of jQuery code inserted into this edit work order portal form. One thing before I can actually test this is that I need to clear the cache of the portal to be sure that the caching mechanism has not or the logic of the portal form is not from the cache but directly the latest version from the dynamic side. So I click clear the cache, and once it's done, then I can come back to here on the portal side and hit Ctrl F5 to actually refresh the page. And it takes a while now because the cache is empty, but once it's loaded, I have the same work order here, and those changes that I selected before, I didn't save those, so now the customer asset field, lookup field, is still empty. So as you can see, the quick view form is not visible either, and what should happen now is that once I select the customer asset, the service account and billing account should be populated to the same value that is the account of the customer asset that is within the quick view form over here. So let's see if that works. I'll click the magnifier glass and I'll select a customer asset which has a different account than the one already populated here, so we can see that does this work. So I'll select this one. It has the Alpine Ski House sample account, and click select. And now what happened is that the script was run and the two lookup fields were populated and the quick view form got hidden, so actually you didn't even see it being available over there. So it looks like our script works, and the final thing that I wanted to show here is that how we can see that the script is actually run properly. So for that you can use the browser developer tools again. I'm using IE here, but if you are using Firefox or Chrome, the developer tools are pretty much similar than this one. Some keyboard shortcuts might be different, but anyways, the main idea is the same. So I go to the debugger side, and here I happen to have this already within the place, this JQuery code, which I've inserted here to the form earlier. How to find it, this is, for example, using the search capability or just browsing through the edit work order code, and then you can easily find your own function, and then you can set breakpoints here as I'm going to do now. So I'll set the breakpoint over here and another one over here within the billing account custom event handler. So if I select the another customer asset here in the form, my breakpoint should be hit, and another service account name should be populated here. So let's see if that works. I'll select, for example, the first one over here and click select. And now the browser execution was actually paused because I have the breakpoint over here. Still, now this local variable value is Alpine Ski House sample, because this row has not been executed yet. But if I click F10 to proceed to the next row, now we can see that this local variable value was fetched again from the quick view form, and now the account name is Coho Winery. Similarly, if I step through the code further, the GUID was also changed, and in here the service account should get changed. If I hit F5, I should hit the custom event handler for populating the billing account, so we can see that the custom event handler gets actually hit in the execution path. And if I hit F5 again, now this script execution was finalized, and the two lookup fields here were populated using our code. So this is pretty much it for this time. Hopefully you got an idea that how you can use the jQuery customizations for customizing your D365 portal forms. Naturally, this was very simple example which you can follow to make it more involved, but this was the purpose of this was to give you an idea how to start with this and what are the possibilities. So thank you for listening and have a great day.